to Impact 2026, our continuing conversation, where we talk about all types of different topics: race, religion, current events, everything that you can think of. This is that opportunity for people to come and express their feelings and opinions so that we can talk and come to some conclusions about some things. As always, we like to invite you to participate in that process. This is not where you should just be listening to me. This is where you should be putting in your 2 cents, as they say. So feel free, type your questions, your comments into the comment section, so that you can be a part of the conversation. As always, I like to go through the other offers that we have here on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. We have Thursday Thirst. That's a weekly Bible study. That's a time where you can come in and really wrestle with the word. It's very good. Thursday Thirst. 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's Facebook and YouTube. On Sundays, we have worship service. That's at 10 o'clock a.m. That's in person at the address on your screen, or you can be a part of it on Facebook and YouTube as well. So 10 o'clock Sunday Eastern Standard Time in the morning, 10 a.m. And then on Tuesdays, today, from 7 to 7:45, we have a time of prayer. That's an opportunity to pray with the people in the ministry. And then, of course, at 8, where you are now, is Impact 2026. All of these offerings, again, are on Facebook and YouTube. And I think they may be on our website. I'm not 100% sure about that. But you feel free to join us for each and every one of them, or whichever ones you want to. All right. With that out of the way, we hop into the topic of the day. And so, as I've been saying for a very long time, there's a lot of stuff going on out here in the world, as you know. And, that gives us a lot of opportunity to talk about a lot of different things. And there's a lot of important topics. But sometimes what we do here is that we kind of go a little bit off of the main topics and off of the beaten path. And so a little bit off of what you would think we would talk about. You think we would talk about the war in Iran. I think we may be talking about TSA agents not being paid, so they're not showing up to work, and long lines at airports, 3 hours, 4 hours in some places for you just to get through airport security or the check-in, the TSA line. ICE agents now being deployed to some of the airports. We could talk about those things, but no, we are not. What we're talking about today, there recently was an article that was put out, and people have been talking about this article. And this article was done by some people, and it was analyzing the voting habits of Latino Americans, Hispanic Americans. And it talked about the fact that one of the reasons that we have the president who we have now, Donald Trump, is because he overperformed with the Hispanic community, with the Latino community. And some people are like, well, why? And in the conversation, they said, well, after going through all the surveys and talking to people, what has been found out, and the number one conclusion was that people who are Hispanic generally vote their pocketbook, their wallet, their purse. What does that mean? That means generally they vote the economy. And so if the economy is doing good, then they're going to vote for somebody who they think is going to continue on the current economy. If the economy is doing bad, they're going to vote for someone who they think is going to do something different. And that's with a recognition that there are a lot of different types of Hispanic people from a lot of different places, a lot of different backgrounds. But one of the things about Hispanic people across the United States, and we're talking about voting citizens, so people who are citizens and have the eligibility to vote. One of the things they say is that Hispanics are, as a whole, the lowest, or one of the lowest income earners here in the United States. And so as a group, if you look at, you get all of them, they're low wage earners. And so the economy actually affects them a lot. All right. So the economy affects them a lot. And as a result, when it comes to elections, they vote their pocketbook, they vote their wallet. And oftentimes when people explain this, the first thing is people say, well, don't all people vote their pocketbook? Don't all people vote on based on the economy? No, they don't. Hispanic people do. White people, for the most part, do. But one of the frustrating parts about what's going on in society and what frustrates a lot of folk is that Black people don't vote that way. That's not their number one, historically has not been their number one concern. And that's what frustrates folk. They'll sit back and they'll look at a city and they'll say, man, the prices are high and the economic opportunities aren't there. And you keep voting, the Black people keep voting the same way. You won't vote a different way, or you won't vote. Historically, Black people vote Democratic. Recently, historically. And they say, well, why won't you vote Republican? Why won't you vote for your pocketbook? Because that's not the number one important thing. Cultural voters. I think it's pretty easy to understand, but if you're not Black, you wouldn't understand it sometimes. It's hard to go spend and vote for the economy when you're worried about getting shot at by the police, or when you're worried about getting discriminated against, or you're worried about the fact that where your children are going to be able to go to school, or when you're worried about just systemic racism and opportunities that you're not going to get, or your treatment. It's hard to worry about the economy as your number one thing when you have so many other things. And we also vote for not just ourselves. It's not a selfish vote. Usually we vote for community. What is going to be best for the community? And not just the Black community, but the whole entire community. And so when you're coming from a constant standpoint of we're voting money, we're voting our income, we're voting dollars, then you really don't understand what we're doing as Black people. So back to the Hispanic thing. The reason that this was interesting is because they sat back and they said, well, now the vote is going to be different. Now they're probably not going to vote for the president's party, and they're not going to be able to continue his policies because the economy is bad. Gas prices are high. And this report was done before the Iran war. So gas prices are high, inflation is high, all that is going on. And so that was what it is. But it struck me, and the reason we're talking about it today is because they didn't vote. They didn't care about the fact that someone has come in here and said that I'm going to persecute you. You're going to come in here and say that I am going to persecute you based on your country of origin, based on how curly your hair is, based on your brown skin, based on your last name, based on your whatever language you speak first, based on who you are. I'm going to discriminate you. I'm going to racially profile you. I treated you poorly 4 years ago when I was in office, and I'm going to treat you poorly again. And yet they ignored all of that and said, hey, I'm going to vote my pocketbook. I'm going to vote my wallet. Man, it seemed crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me. But then when you sit back and you unpeel the onion a little bit more, it's greed, selfishness. Because all you care about is the money that's going on. And thinking about your money, you're not thinking about your life or the lives of people around you, or their safety, or their freedom, or their opportunities. All you're thinking about is, man, how can I stretch this one little dollar that I have? How can I make the most money? And that selfishness costs you. Costs some people their lives, some people their freedom, costs people to get racially profiled and then treated that way. And so, yeah, one of the major things is that the president was elected because of this population, Hispanic population, and they voted not purely, but in droves. They voted largely for Donald Trump, largely for the Republican Party, because they thought that the money, it was going to be better for their taxes and their wallet and their pockets, in their pocketbooks. And that's why we're in the situation that we're in. Comments. Many in the Hispanic community also consider themselves closer to whites. Therefore, they vote the way they think whites would vote. Yeah, well, that's the parallel. Because when you listen to a lot of the people that talk about that conversation, and you hear, oh, Hispanics are voting for, they're voting purely for economics, purely for what's going to be best for their particular pocketbooks and their particular financial situation. If the commentator is white, they'd be like, well, that's what everybody does. That's not what everybody does. And so it's synonymous that they don't understand that. And whether it's that they just both think like that because they're similar, or whether it's we're copying them or we're doing what they would do. But yeah, that's I think that's what's weird, and that's what's problematic. And when I say it's problematic, it's because that's just selfish behavior, and that's short-sighted behavior. That there's much more important things and issues going on than just whether you pay one level of taxes or another. Another comment: given that many Hispanics are discriminated against, you would think they would have voted for justice, and that's the concerning part. It was just to sit back and say you were treated so poorly before. You knew what was going to happen. You heard all of the disparaging comments, calling Hispanic people criminals and bad folk. Sit back and saying, that they come from terrible countries, and so you kind of just denigrating folk. But money trumped all of that. How much milk costs and eggs costs or whatever trumped all of that. And it's not like in a big situation. It's like, well, I just think that this person's going to do better with money, so I'll ignore all the bad things that happen. And so now they said, because the economy isn't great, that opens up your eyes to be able to see the other stuff. Oh, look how they're treating people. Look how they're, putting U.S. citizens into the whole system of deportation and just having them just sit with no rights, and they may sit there for months. They may sit there for days before they ever see a lawyer or do anything like that. And so, yeah, it's funny. Once the money changes, once you get the greed off and you see, well, I'm not about to make all this money. Now you can open up and see all the social issues. Now you can open up and see how it's affecting your community. Now you can see how you're being discriminated against, how the Supreme Court is saying you're allowed to be discriminated against. So here we go. Here's the problem that I see. I'm not Hispanic, so even though I spoke to that particular situation, I'm not Hispanic. I'm less speaking to that. I'm speaking about Black people. We've been a frustrating electorate for a lot of folks because we don't vote the pocketbook. That's not our primary reason for voting. However, we have a growing group of people who now that's where they're starting to go. And I think that's problematic in our space. You want diversity when it comes to all cultures. But as Black people, when we start to just think about money only and saying, well, we want lower taxes, or I want to keep more of my money in my pocket. Okay, great. But when you start going that route, you start ignoring the other ills and the other problems. If I can distract you by giving you a little bit of money while I go over here and I take away your rights, I distract you with a little bit of money while I sit back and I try to erase your whole entire history. That's where it comes in, and it's significantly problematic. And unfortunately, I think greed, there's a new level, or not a new level, but there's a higher level of greed, narcissism in the Black community. And as a result, there are people who just, all they want to think about is, how is this going to affect my money? How is this going to affect my ability to do the things that I want to do? Hang out with my friends and, get enough money that I can get a car and a house and all of that. And so then you'll vote that way. And you'll turn around and be like, not to be divisive, but you'll be like how a lot of Latino voters voted in this last election. You will ignore all the negative things that you know are going to happen to you because you think you might get a tax break. And so as Black people, I think that one of the great parts about us is that we don't, as a unit, as a group, we don't sit back here and money is our number one voting issue. And once we get there, and I think it's creeping up. It's creeping up, especially amongst Black men. But once we get there where we thinking that money should be our primary reason for voting, I think that's when we get into a bad situation, because it's just synonymous with the greed and the narcissism that we have. There are many persons, Black and Hispanic, who feel that they can just show whites that they are just like them, and I will be okay. Tim Scott and others. Absolutely. So when you look at a Tim Scott, when you look at a Clarence Thomas, when you look at these type of folk, money is their number one thing. You can listen to him talk. Tim Scott, the first thing he does is he says everything that they tell him to say, which is let's talk about tabletop issues, how much eggs cost, how much this costs, how much that costs. Ignore the fact that they're calling me, I'm Tim Scott, and they're calling me all types of names. Ignore the fact that we're going to sit here and blatantly discriminate against the first and only African American president. Ignore the fact that I'm going to talk and discourage Black women. Ignore all that stuff. Just worry about the eggs and the bacon and how much that costs. And so that's what they do. And so you do have many people who feel like if I just act like the other group, all they care about is money. Maybe all I should care about is money. And then you turn into them, but you'll never be them. And so just like Tim Scott constantly is reminded all of the time by the people around him, you're not one of us. Just like the fact that he and we're gonna keep it playing. You kissed the president's butt for so long, and then when he became president, he didn't give you anything. But yet you just sit here and embarrass yourself over and over again, talk about how much you loved him and you do anything for him, but he did nothing for you. And you just embarrass yourself because it's a reminder. You're not us. You'll never be us. And they respect people less, I think. People all across the board respect people less when they just, put themselves out like with no respect for their no character. You're just out here just clowning on yourself. Above money, there are those who just want to be accepted by whites. Yeah, I think that, but I really think it's the money. The acceptance is cool, but I think it's the money. I think it's the money. Because I think they think that the money will get them accepted, that the money makes them equal, that the money makes them superior to everyone else or puts them on the same level as others. So it could be either one. It could be a combination of both. I lean more towards it's the money. And I think that's what's the problem that we're going to end up having if we continue to have Black people to move towards, I'm going to just vote my pocketbook as well. I'm going to vote my purse as well. I'm going to vote my wallet as well. I'm just going to care about money. It's once you go down that path, and we've had a problem with that. We talked about it in our songs for the love of money, and it's all about the Benjamins and all these different songs and things like that. Culturally, we were talking about like, if you're not talking about money, don't be talking to me. All these things that we used to talk about. Culturally, we kind of celebrated money a little bit, but it was never a situation I don't think of where people seriously was like, it's all about money. There's a couple of folk who kind of went down that route. Those are people who literally do anything for money. But for most of us, it was like, it's nice to have. It would be great to have a little bit more money. We all want a little bit more money, but it doesn't rule and control our lives. At the end of the day, we know that all the money in the world cannot change your skin color. And so as long as people look at you in a negative light and treat you in a negative light due to your skin color, all the money in the world is not gonna help. Most of us knew that. But now I don't think people do. Now I think it's a different situation where they think money is the key to solving all of their issues and all their problems. And so you have a Clarence Thomas out here who, as far as all the reports go, brought and paid for. He hangs out with the people who are going to give him money. When he, as a Supreme Court justice, his rulings happen to benefit the people who have given him money. And so he's brought and he's sold. And so I think that's the problem that we will have if we continue to have people go down that path. Now, it's greed. And so that's where it comes into play when it comes to our faith as Christians. We can't let greed ruin our lives or rule our lives. And the irony is when you look at Hispanics as a whole, many of the Hispanics who have come here, Latin Americans who have come here, the major religion in the countries that they come from is usually Catholicism. And so they come here, many of them Catholics, yet ruled by money. Now, I can't judge because many of them, again, they're leaving their countries to come here because they're in such dire economic situations, and I don't know what that does to you. As it was said, this group is the lowest income earners. They take the lowest wage jobs on a whole. So you may see a bunch of Hispanic people who have done well, business owners and all these different types of professions. But on the grand scheme, when you really look at it, most of them are taking low wage, low income jobs. A lot of restaurant workers, a lot of workers who are doing farm labor, a lot of workers who are doing just labor jobs, not owners, but laborers. And so I don't know what that does to you. I don't know what that does to you mentally to make it so that money rules your world and rules your life. But I would think that from so many people who've come from situations of Christianity and Catholicism, that you would know that there's things that are a lot more important than money. And that's where it comes back to us as African Americans. If we're on that same path, if we start going down that same path, we know better. Most of us have faith, whether we're Christians or something else. Most of us understand that there's something greater than ourselves. We can't go down that same path of money, because if we do, we're going to end up in the same situation. We're going to vote for our pocketbooks. We're going to vote for our wallets. And then we're going to turn around and be discriminated against at a higher level than we are now. We're going to have worse situations than we have now, where, again, people try to whitewash our history, take away slavery, try to tell us that it was all good for us. That's all a result of people being selfish and narcissistic and voting for their pocketbooks. Now, and because we're almost at our time, you can just sit back and say, "Oh man, you're just mad," that the candidate won who you didn't like or something like that. You could think that. That's not what the point of this is. The point of this is what is ruling your life. It was shown through these studies that what is ruling some people's lives is money. And that's what they vote for. That's what they do. I don't care if you voted. I don't care how you voted, per se. I would hope that money wasn't the number one concern. And so if you have a reason, social reason, whatever the reason is going to be, I hope money isn't the number one concern. And that's going to be the problem. So it's not about who you voted for. It's not about right, left, Democrat, Republican, independent, whatever you want to do. That's not the concern, But I think the concern should be, if all you're doing is looking at how much money I can make, how much money can I avoid to pay in taxes, how many loopholes can I find, how many ways can I just have my income grow, and that's your number one concern. I think that's a problem, and I think that is not what we should be doing as Christians. All right, so I just want to be clear on that this is not about, left, right, whatever. Now, let's keep it real. I do not think anybody should be voting for a Republican and have, black or brown skin because of the racist policies that come out through them, because of the racist ways that they have jumped behind the current president. And so now I'm going to keep that clear, but that's not what this conversation is about. We can have that conversation any day of the week. But that's not what this is about. This is about, you can't have money be the reason that you vote. And as Christians, we definitely should not be looking at money as the number one reason. Another comment. I am reminded of a character in the cartoon, The Boondocks, Uncle Ruckus. He felt that he was a white man with a skin disease. He wanted to be white. Again, I think the acceptance of whites is very important to some. They make every effort to be like them. Yeah. I don't doubt that at all. I do think that some people, it is purely identity. You want to be like, you want to be like others. You want to be. Some black people want to be white. Some Hispanic people want to be white. And so that's what they want to do. So it has nothing for them. It doesn't have a whole lot to do with money. It has to do with, you just want to be them. Right. I think that is a sad situation. That's a situation that needs therapy. You should be proud of who you are, love who yourself. Um, I could go down a whole another conversation. That's a shame. There's nothing we can do about them folks. But the ones who are in love with money, yeah, those I think we can do something about. Um, you 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 got to see the bigger picture, and so there are people in Iran right now with plenty of money, and none of that money is doing them any good. When bombs are coming in from the United States or from Israel, when people are dying all across there, you can buy the nicest bunker that you want and think you can hide out. When those bombs come, it doesn't matter. And so that should be able to show us all that at the end of the day, this money doesn't matter. It makes your life a little easier, a little nicer. You can eat a little better, wear a little clothes. Truth of the matter, you might even live a little longer because you can get some better medical care. But when it's all said and done, money can't save you. And we got to get to that point where we understand that and realize that. And as Christians, it does us no good on Sunday to be sitting back here talking about how much we love the Lord and money, it doesn't guide our life. But then when we, on Tuesdays, on election Tuesdays, we run out here and the only thing that we're concerned about is how much money we can get. So, yeah. All right. That's it. So again, money. let's not go down that path. All right. I want to thank everyone for the comments. It's good. It's a weird conversation. And again, it was just off the reports that came out. It's a weird conversation. And we all know for the longest time that how money rules our life, or rules certain people's lives. All right, and as a reminder, on Thursdays, Thursday, that's our weekly Bible study. That's where we can learn a little bit about the things that are important, the things that are important that are more than money, as we go through the Word. On Sundays, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Facebook, YouTube, and in person on the address on your screen, we have worship service. On Tuesdays, 7 to 7:45, the time of prayer. And then, of course, at 8 o'clock on Tuesdays, we have Impact 2026. That is our time to talk and discuss. If you have any topics or anything that you want to talk about, feel free. Email us, call us, leave a message. Let us know. That's why we're here. All right. So, everyone, thank you for joining us. And please join again.